My job is pretty flexible. I'm a freelance architect, which is a nice way of saying I spend most of my life staring at CAD software, drinking coffee that's gone cold, and trying to make clients happy on impossible deadlines. It means I can work from anywhere, so when a big project had me pulling my hair out last November, I figured a change of scenery was in order. I'm talking about that deep-level burnout where the city noise, the sirens, the chatter from the apartment next door starts to feel like it's inside your own head. I found this place on Airbnb, a detached guest house in upstate New York, near the Catskills. The pictures were exactly what I needed. Minimalist design, clean lines, a wall of floor-to-ceiling windows looking out into a forest. The listing was full of buzzwords like serene, creative retreat, and digital detox. The host, a woman named Sarah, had stellar reviews. Her messages were quick, cheerful, and full of emojis. Perfect. I booked it for a full week. I drove up on a Monday. The place was even better than the photos. It was set back from a winding country road at the end of a long gravel driveway. There was a larger, older-looking main house about 100 yards away, but the listing said it was unoccupied, used only for the owner's storage. The guest house itself was a sleek, modern box of glass and dark wood. The key was in a lockbox, just as Sarah had said. I never met her in person. Inside, it smelled like pine and fresh paint. I dropped my bags, set up my laptop on the big oak table that faced the windows, and felt the tension in my shoulders ease for the first time in months. This was it. Just me, my work, and the woods. As the sun started to set, casting long shadows through the trees, I noticed the other house. It wasn't the owner's main house on the same property. This was a different one, visible through a thin patch of woods on the adjoining lot. It was an old, slightly run-down two-story farmhouse, maybe 70 or 80 yards away. Closer than I'd expected a neighbor to be out here. One of its upstairs windows directly faced my guest house. I remember thinking it was a bit weird, having this wall of glass that basically gave a perfect view into my living space, but I shrugged it off. It was the country. People mind their business. The first night was incredibly quiet, the kind of deep, weighted silence you just don't get in the city. I worked until about 1 a.m., and as I was getting ready for bed, I heard something. A faint, rhythmic thump. I froze, listening. It was slow, methodical. I figured it was a branch hitting the roof in the wind, or maybe an animal. I looked out the big windows but saw nothing but darkness and the skeletal shapes of trees. The sound stopped. I chalked it up to the house settling and went to sleep. The next day was productive. I was in the zone, knocking out renders, barely stopping for food. Around dusk, I took a break and was stretching by the window when I saw him. An old man standing in the yard of the neighboring farmhouse. He was just standing there, stock still, looking directly at my guest house. He was too far away to see his expression, but the intensity of his posture was unmistakable. He wasn't doing yard work. He wasn't getting mail. He was watching. I felt a prickle on my neck, that primal feeling of being observed. I quickly stepped back from the window, out of sight. A few minutes later, I peeked back out. He was gone. That night, the thumping came back. It was louder this time, more insistent, and it didn't sound like it was coming from the roof. It sounded lower, like it was coming from outside, against the foundation. My heart started hammering. I muted my music and crept over to the window again. The woods were black. I couldn't see a thing. The sound continued for about a minute, then stopped as abruptly as it had started. I couldn't shake the feeling that it was connected to the old man. I sent a casual message to Sarah, the host. "Hey Sarah, place is great. Just a quick question. Are the neighbors close by? Heard some odd noises last night. Probably just animals, but figured I'd ask. Her reply came back almost instantly. Hi, so glad you're enjoying the retreat. You might have seen Mr. Abernathy next door. He's a bit eccentric, but harmless. The woods are full of critters. LOL. The LOL didn't make me feel better. The following afternoon, I forced myself to go for a walk to clear my head. As I walked down the gravel driveway, Mr. Abernathy was out in his yard again, raking leaves into a small pile. As I got closer, he stopped and looked at me. His face was a road map of wrinkles, his eyes a pale, watery blue. "You the new one?" he asked. His voice was raspy, like dry leaves skittering across pavement. "Yeah, just for the week," I said, trying to sound friendly. He nodded slowly, his eyes drifting from me to the guest house. "She told you to stay away from the shed?" I was confused. "The shed? I don't think there's a shed." He gave a dry, humorless chuckle. "Oh, there's a shed. It's back there." He gestured with his chin toward the woods behind the guest house. "Best you don't go poking around it." And with that, he turned and went back to his raking. The conversation left a sour taste in my mouth. Now, of course, I had to go look for the shed. I walked around the back of the guest house, pushing through some overgrown brush. And there it was. It was a small, dilapidated outbuilding, almost completely hidden by vines and young trees. The wood was rotten, the roof was caving in, and a heavy rusted padlock was on the door. It looked like it hadn't been opened in decades. But that wasn't the creepy part. The creepy part was that there was a new, freshly cut path leading to it from the direction of Mr. Abernathy's property. That night, I didn't hear the thumping. I heard something worse. It was around 3 a.m. I'd fallen asleep on the couch with my laptop on my chest. A sound jolted me awake, a scraping sound, like metal on concrete. It was coming from right outside the main glass wall. I sat bolt upright, my blood running cold. I stayed completely still, straining to listen over the sound of my own frantic heartbeat. The scraping stopped, and then I saw a flicker of light, low to the ground, moving just beyond the glass. A flashlight beam dancing along the foundation of the guest house. I dropped to the floor, crawling behind the couch, my mind racing. Someone was right outside. I fumbled for my phone, my thumb shaking as I dialed 911. But before I could hit call, I heard a new sound. The distinct, unmistakable click of the lock on the sliding glass door. My blood turned to ice. I had checked that lock. I know I had. I always do. The door slid open with a soft, metallic whisper. A figure stepped inside. It wasn't the old man. It was a young guy, maybe in his late 20s, thin and wiry, dressed in dark clothes. He moved with a quiet confidence that was terrifying. He wasn't looking around like a common burglar. He was moving like he owned the place. From my hiding spot, I watched in horror as he walked directly to the spot where I'd left my laptop bag, which also had my wallet and car keys in it. He didn't search for it. He knew exactly where it was. He picked it up. Then he turned and his eyes scanned the room, and for a horrible second, they landed on the couch. I held my breath, sure he had seen me. But then his phone buzzed. He pulled it out, looked at the screen, and typed a quick reply. He glanced toward the window facing Mr. Abernathy's house, then slid the glass door open and slipped back out into the night. The door clicked shut behind him. I stayed on the floor for what felt like an eternity, unable to move, my mind struggling to process what had just happened. My wallet, my keys, my work, all gone. Out of nowhere, my own phone buzzed in my hand. It was a notification from the Airbnb app, a new message from my host, Sarah. I opened it, my hands still trembling. The message read, "All clear. He's gone. I left the bag by the old well. You can pick it up in the morning, and don't forget to leave me that 5-star review." I stared at the message, my brain short-circuiting. What? I read it again, and again, the pieces crashed together in my head with horrifying clarity. The cheerful host, the eccentric but harmless neighbor, the warnings, the thumping, the scraping. Mr. Abernathy wasn't just a creepy neighbor, he was the lookout. The thumping wasn't a warning for me, it was a signal for them. He was tapping out a code, letting them know my patterns when I was asleep, when I was distracted. The kid who broke in wasn't a stranger, he was their accomplice. And Sarah, the superhost with the smiley face emojis, was the ringleader. This wasn't a vacation rental, it was a trap. They had a whole system. They'd watch the guests, learn their routines, and when the time was right, they'd send the kid in to steal their things while the old man stood guard. The theft was so quiet, so precise, they probably hoped I'd just assume I misplaced my bag or left it somewhere. But the most chilling realization was the lock. He didn't pick it. He had a key. They had given him a key. They were watching me right now, I was sure of it, from that dark farmhouse window. I didn't wait for morning. I didn't go for the bag. I left everything else behind. I grabbed the spare car key I always hide in my suitcase, ran out the front door, and drove away as fast as I could, not looking back. I called the police from a gas station 50 miles down the road. They investigated, of course. They found my bag right where she said it would be, but Sarah claimed her account had been hacked. The kid was nowhere to be found, and Mr. Abernathy claimed he hadn't seen a thing. There was no proof of anything more than a simple burglary. The listing was taken down, but I know they're still out there. I still work remotely, but I don't rent secluded guest houses anymore. I stick to busy hotels in the middle of the city. Sometimes, living in a quiet place, even if it is for just a weekend, can hide risks. You are vulnerable, with nobody there to help you.